Hi, and welcome to my channel, Laura's Library Card. So this video is a reading update, and I'm hoping to do more frequent, shorter wrap-up videos. So I think for now, I'm going to try to, instead of doing monthly wrap-ups, do sort of recent reads, and I think I'm going to start with 5 books at a time. So I actually finished 8 books in January, but I carried over 5 or 6 currently reading into the start of February. So February is definitely going to be heavier on the total number of books that I have finished and the pages, just because I count the entire book's pages in the month that I finish the book. But yeah, so that's sort of my reading update. Is I'm working on finishing up a bunch of the books that I have just carried over into February, and yeah, I'm going to wrap up 5 books, the first 5 books that I read in 2022. The first title that I finished in 2022 was Dial A for Aunties. This is by Jessie Q. Sutanto, and I read this in ebook format. Not my favorite start to the year, but the premise of this book is it's hard to explain because it sort of fits multiple genres. But basically, our main character is Madeline. She tases her blind date while he's driving her car, and then he's dead, and because they get into an accident, and she stuffs his body into the trunk, takes it home, drives it home, and asks her mom what to do about it. And her mom calls her aunts, and all the aunts come over, and the rest of the book is them all playing hot potato and hide the body while also trying to organize this glamorous wedding. This book is part sort of cover up, part murder mystery. There's a mystery element. It's supposed to be part comedy and part romance, and yet, in my opinion, this book was a complete mess. The romance plotline had 0 development, and the guy was just a complete cardboard cutout. He was hot. I literally don't even remember his name at the time. The romance was poorly done, in my opinion. The aunts also seemed to me to be relatively stereotypical, or at least caricatures, and I didn't always feel comfortable with how they were drawn, and I didn't feel that most of their actions were very funny to me. I think a lot of this humor was missed for me in this book, and really the only element that was believable was how much of an idiot everybody was. So I read this for a book club, and I had been excited going into it. And if you completely suspend 100% of your disbelief, then maybe you can enjoy it. But I just did not really enjoy it. So, started off the year with a bang, right? The second book that I finished this year was a reread. I re-listened to the audiobook of Beautiful Bastard. This is by Christina Lauren. I think this is the first Christina Lauren book I ever read. The premise of this book is that haughty, badass Chloe, intern, she gives in to starting a passionate, sexy relationship with, well, it's just sex, with her really grumpy boss. And she's concerned that this will jeopardize her career, and it's a workplace romance. It's good. This was a reread. I definitely see strong Twilight and 50 Shades of Grey parallels, which is not a surprise because this started out as a Twilight fanfiction. This is sort of steamy, and I think it has good flow and readability. I think it was pretty well written, especially for, I think this is the first book that they wrote together. I did feel like it was a little bit predictable. I needed some stronger emotional development for the relationship part. I wanted a little bit higher stakes and tension, but this one holds a soft spot in my heart, which is why I reread it, and it's definitely, in my opinion, pretty steamy. So that's why I picked it back up. The next 2 books that I read in January were both graphic novels that I had the physical copies of that I have since returned to the library. But the first was Witchy, and this is by Ariel Slamet Ries. Sorry if I butchered that name. This is a graphic novel that is a sort of political fantasy book. The premise is that in this world and universe, people who have magic and who are witches, the length of their hair is correlated to the amount of magical power that they have. And so the powers that be who are in charge want strong witches, but also could put a target on your back if your hair gets too long and you get too powerful. Nynaeve is our main character, and she has very long hair that she is glamoring to make it appear short, to hide how much like magical strength she has. But then when this is all eventually revealed, I don't feel like that's much of a spoiler. She's sort of being persecuted and manipulated for her powers, and she has to kind of decide what path she wants to take regarding her alliances and allegiances. I really liked this concept. I really liked the art style and the color palette in particular. I did feel like there was some good diversity present throughout the whole book, just like really casually. It was really great to see the world building in that regard. I didn't really follow the political elements and intrigue happening. It felt like the start of some world building, but hadn't really gotten maybe a good foundation, or maybe I was just struggling to follow that part. I also struggled a little bit because I didn't understand Nynaeve's like goals or purpose, and so I am intrigued with the book, but I'm not really chomping at the bit to continue the story. And I just looked it up, and it looks like volume 2 is expected to come out in February of 2022. So I think I will pick it up, but I don't know that this is like something I'm super in love with. The next book that I finished was also a graphic novel. This was a middle grade book, and the title is Pashmina by Nidhi Chanani. So this one, Priyanka is our main character, Pri, and she is a typical teen. She's at odds with her mom. She's hungry to know more about her own individual past and who her father is, and her own mother's life story and her life story, as well as more about her heritage, because she and her family are from India. And then when she finds this mysterious Pashmina in her mom's closet, I think, when she puts it on or wraps it around herself, she's like transported to India and like learns about that place and culture. This felt to me really like middle grade. I don't have a ton of middle grade experience, but I really felt like there was a lack of sort of subtlety from scene to scene, and there wasn't good transitions between those things. I thought the art style was fine, but the element of learning about India just really felt to me like a vacation brochure. And overall, I feel like the story felt sort of disjointed or underdeveloped and incomplete. There were certain plot lines that I just didn't think were carried out very well or finished. So I think that it was really interesting, but also just not as effective as it could have been. And the last book that I'm going to talk about here is Horrorstör by Grady Hendrix. I also had the physical book for this one, and I did a review on my channel, so I'm going to leave that linked up in the cards down in the description. But I read this book aloud to my husband Ben, and we then reviewed it in that video. So very briefly, this is a horror book that takes place in what is essentially IKEA, where Amy is our main character, and she agrees to stay overnight at her retail job to help determine this weird source of like vandalism and mysterious things that are happening in the night. But it turns out that it's much darker than just, someone sneaking into the store, and there's paranormal elements at work, and they're out to get Amy and her other coworkers. So I overall didn't find this quite as scary as the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And I also felt like there was a little less social commentary compared with that first book that I read. But I did enjoy the satire around sort of working retail elements. This was definitely like a very paranormal haunted house, you can't get out kind of vibe. And while I enjoyed the reading style and the readability, I didn't super love the ending. So those were the first 5 books of the year. Kind of an interesting mix, but none of them really, I think, was super amazing. So I will try to tune in soon with the next 5. I think I have just finished. I had 3 more that I had finished in January, and then I think I have just finished my second book to make it 5 today. I'm recording this on February 2nd. So look out soon for another, recent reads 5 wrap-up books coming soon. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, feel free to open discussion down in the comments or tell me your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you had to say. Thanks for watching. Bye.